It's the Fightful MMA Holy Smokes podcast with Showdown Joe and Ross Sapp.
What's up, you guys? Ross Sapp here, managing editor of Fightful.com. This is a bit of a surprise stream, a surprise preview per se, for our Fightful subscribers. It's a pretty big undertaking what I'm about to try to do for this preview, and I wanted to bring you all something special, different that we don't usually do for the Christmas season. Joe is headed to Japan on Tuesday, I think, so he won't be around to do the Holy Smokes MMA podcast. And, of course, Christmas is Monday. Boxing Day in Canada is a big deal. Didn't want to hit up James Lynch and be like, hey, cut your Boxing Day short. Cut your Christmas short so you can make it here with me. Of course, Fightful.com, we have a post-show podcast for Monday Night Raw on Christmas. We have a lot of Christmas and Royal Rumble-themed content. And we have full coverage of next week's UFC 219 show. And it is a big one. And this preview will feature my breakdowns, a little bit of preview, and you're going to hear from tons of UFC fighters about what they think of their upcoming fights and pros picks. James Lynch has done such a great job for us at getting new content and getting fighters to open up to Fightful.com. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk a little bit about everything in relation to UFC 219. It's headlined by this big Holly Holm, Cris Cyborg fight. And in my opinion, this is among the highest level women's MMA fights of all time. Like, Cris Cyborg, there's still so many question marks around her to me. Not from a technical standpoint. She's really good from a technical standpoint, but her competition hasn't been that great. Tanya Evinger was a good fighter. She beat her. She beat Marloes Coenen. She beat Shayna Baszler when it meant something to beat Shayna Baszler. She beat Gina Carano back in the day, but none of them are Holly Holm. Now, I think that Holly Holm's best opportunity, ironically, is on the feet, even though Cris Cyborg is this powerhouse. And Cris Cyborg has the benefit of some really good training that's going to adapt to everything. James Lynch spoke to Cris Cyborg at UFC 218. Take a listen.
Was there ever a point you thought this fight might not happen, just with, there's always politics and money involved and everything like that? Were you ever worried that you wouldn't fight Holly?
After Tony Evinger, I already have a feeling it's going to be her, and I start training about to fight her. But I was knew too, it's not just about money, and I knew she was going to accept the fight close like 6 weeks, 5 weeks. And then because I was like do short camps, and then we our team already knew this, and then we knew she was going to accept the fight close to the fight. But he already prepared for that. And just study her, she have a lot of footage about, because all the fights of her, it's like for points. Yeah. And you just wait and training, it's going to be, finish, it's going to be her.
And the big thing that you've been talking about with her is her being drug tested. Do you actually feel that way, or is this sort of gamesmanship trying to build up the fight?
No, just because her team starts saying things about me, and then I don't think right then say anything. I just say then her team is have the most fighters for tests and doping. I don't know why they say something about me. And then I just say, okay, if you have any problem about me, let's do tests. How many tests you want to do for me, Usada, do it for her between the camp. I don't say about 2 years ago, I'm talking about the camp. But nothing against Holly, not against anything.
But has Holly said anything specifically to you about that, or have you seen Holly say anything about you being tested at all, or is it just her team you said?
I don't see her say anything. I think her team, but I think she's answered, but I think she don't understand what I'm said. I said about the camp, and I said about how long she's doing tests.
One of your training partners in the past has been Marion Renault, who fought Holly. Have you got any ideas from her since she's fought Holly before?
She's coming sometimes train with me too, and because she lives close by. And then I went to Bet Correa too in Thailand. We changed a little bit too. And then I bring one guy from South Africa too. He's had more than 100 fights Muay Thai, Southpaw too, brown belt Jiu-Jitsu, good wrestling for help my camp too. I think it's good. Everything you can know about your opponent is better for you.
How happy are you that this fight, I mean, you're the champion, so it makes sense, but how happy you don't have to cut down to 40. It's 45, so you have this big fight that's at 45 as opposed to you having to cut down.
I fight so much for that, for open more division for girls, and I'm really happy with this opportunity. And the fight for my belt for 145 is really blessed for me.
Do you feel like Megan Anderson's going to be next if you beat Holly? Is that sort of the next contender?
I really would like to fight somebody from a division. I think it's not fair I fight the girls other division 135. I think it's fair fight for 145 for growing or division.
there are several underrated aspects to the game of Holly Holm versus Cris Cyborg. As I've mentioned, Cris Cyborg and Holly Holm both really benefited from training for Ronda Rousey. And I know that that's a little bit crazy to say because Ronda Rousey was incredibly one-dimensional. She was a great judoka who had a lot of power in her hands, probably from that judo and all the core strength she had developed. But because of that overwhelming judo, both Holly Holm and Cyborg had changed their games and their training so much that, to combat that, like I've said it before, Holly Holm, if you go back and watch her early fights, she was avoiding the clinch with people that she absolutely would have wrecked in the clinch, but it's like she was practicing for Ronda Rousey that entire time. So her game in staying out of the clinch just exploded. She got so well at range, so well. I mean, her footwork was always good. She had angles. She was able to cut things off, and that most people couldn't do. And it really helped her develop as a fighter. Now, of course, her ground game leaves plenty to be desired. And I desire to see what Cris Cyborg has in that regard. You don't see her, despite her accolades on the ground, like submitting people. You see her pounding people out because she has that amazing strength. Cris Cyborg also trained and improved greatly at staying out of that clinch. You would see in the old days when Cris Cyborg would fight, she would get up against the cage and she would press people against the cage. If you're fighting a Ronda Rousey, you don't want to do that. You don't want chest-to-chest contact. You don't really want clinch contact, or else you go ass over tea kettle. So instead, what Cris Cyborg started to do was almost the Diaz brothers method, which with a lot more power, at least comparatively speaking to her opponents, is that she would back them against the cage and at range pick them apart with big power shots. She would wait for the body to open up, then go after that. I'm really excited to see the range game here between these two, and that's not something I often say because there are some people that are like, well, if you don't appreciate Lyoto Machida's like range game and waiting and stuff, then you don't appreciate MMA. I think that's a load of shit. I think you can absolutely dislike MMA like that, but still be excited for a matchup like Holm and Cyborg. A big benefit of both of these people, you got Jason Parillo in Cyborg's corner, you got Jackson Wink in Holly Holm's corner. Like this, these are two like great strategic coaches. And James Lynch actually spoke to Jason Parillo a couple of weeks ago. Take a listen.
James Lynch here for Fightful.com. I'm here with Jason Parillo, who's been working with Cris Cyborg. And Cris, of course, is a huge fight here against Holly Holm. Jason, first off, as a coach, how excited are you to fight someone like Holly Holm, to figure out that riddle? A lot of people have had trouble defeating Holly Holm.
Well, that's a fight. I mean, this is a fight that we've been waiting for years. I mean, a high-level fight under the UFC umbrella, which is, the biggest promotion of the game. It's, and to go up against Holly Holm, who's recognized as one of the best female fighters of all time. We're relieved.
Yeah.
Relieved is relieved more than excited. I'm of course excited, but really relieved because Cris, in my opinion, I think a lot of MMA people's opinion, is the best female fighter of all time.
Yeah.
And she just hasn't, had that marquee fight, that huge fight, that for it to be a big fight, you need another big name.
Yeah.
And we got that big name with Holly Holm, and we're all relieved about it and very excited about it.
And not just that, the fight's at 45. I mean, I know Cris is the champion, but she's had to go down in weight just to get, bigger fights. And now it's at 45. She's going to be at her best. How great is that to, have, she's in her element in this fight, fighting Holly.
Well, that's everything for me. Yeah. For me as a coach, that's everything. Because and she'll attest to this. I've always been, even at 140, I was a big no on it. Yeah. Big no on it. And of course, once it was she's all in, I was able to support her because I still care about her. I want to make sure that she's all right regardless. But she was successful then. Do I think that she was at, do I think she was fighting on all cylinders at that weight? No. Was she successful? Was she not? She still won in a dominant fashion. Yeah. But it still wasn't the first time that I know. I think that extra 5 pounds makes a big difference when you're cutting on the train. And at 145, it's a blessing. All cylinders, it should be fun.
How's she looking in camp so far? This fight's coming up fairly quickly, actually. I mean, I know we're hitting December this weekend. How's everything looking so far?
It's looking great. We got. I say it time and time again. Cris is in this gym.
Yeah.
It's really just it's about making some mental adjustments now in the gym as opposed to so much, because she trains all day long.
Yeah.
She still gets up and runs every morning,
yeah.
whether she's going to fight or not. You know, she might not think she's fighting for months, and she's still going to get up and run every morning. It's just who she is and what she does. And, you know, we've had time to think about Holly. We didn't just start thinking about Holly as
been on your radar for a while.
It's in the back of our minds, and it's been part of our training for months now, as opposed to just the last 6 weeks.
Right.
You know, that's what we've been training for. And in all reality, you know, if there was a change of opponent, however, I think the adjustment would be easier to go another direction as opposed to also making an adjustment or shit with our partners.
Yeah.
You know, so we're ready for one of the best, if not the best out there. And, you know, from there, you know, we're ready to go. So now we got to prepare for it.
As a coach, how do you sort of reel her in with, you know, everything that's being said on social media? You have a lot of, you know, really idiot fans, and then on top of that, you know, there's this whole thing with Holly being tested. There's all these other things going on outside. As a coach, how do you zone her in on the training and get her to kind of not worry about that stuff?
Well, that's always that's the adjustment I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Really, that's all it is.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, and funny is closer to the fight, the easier I can start helping with those adjustments.
Right.
You know, because you know you start feeling the footsteps. You know it's coming. You know you're going to be in the locker room. You know that you're going to feel the pressure that crowd and the pressure in the fight. So you know she's where she wants to be mentally right now. We're going to stay there. You know, all that training. There's a lot of all that overtraining, constant training. Some people might burn out at the same time. That's what been a bit of mine with Cris, but she knows this is a fight that she's been hungry for her life. I never see her in camp. You know, she got up for Tanya Eddinger, but nobody knows.
Yeah.
She got up for that fight. She's fighting Holly Holm. She's not arousing. You know, now she actually is fighting Holly Holm.
Yeah.
You know, and you know her focus is 100% for that. It's just it's keeping her relaxed as well, because you know sometimes something's so important you start thinking too much and you start getting beside yourself, and sometimes that can be to your disadvantage, and sometimes and that's something I think Holly will try to prevent. Holly is a very intelligent fighter, and she's going to try to prey on Cris's emotions. That's really I think her best shot.
Right. Okay.
And for me as a coach, that's where obviously there's physical in the gym, but again, you're going to have to mind right for that fight, and that's
I know you guys aren't looking past Holly, but is Megan Anderson next as a coach? Is that sort of what you're thinking as far as after this?
It made the most sense to me. I mean, I'm just a coach. I'm a manager.
No, of course.
Yeah. 100%. That makes the most sense to me. And like you said, our focus is tricky on Holly. I can't, even as a coach, look past that.
Yeah.
I've gone to fights that you're going to win and lost, and you never know what's going to happen. So.
Before I let you go, Michael Bisping obviously coming up another loss here. How's Mike doing? Have you been talking to him at all since the fight at all? What's the latest on him?
I've been talking. Yeah, of course. Me and Mike will stay in touch for the rest of our lives. He's in the spirits of Michael Bisping. Michael Bisping is a special man, and he's always going to be a positive guy.
You're definitely a positive guy. I appreciate the time, Jason. It's good talking about you.
Ahead of this fight, much was made about drug testing and things like that, and Cris Cyborg has met her fair share of troubles with drug testing. Like from the Strikeforce situation to even the one last year that she was kind of exonerated from. It's just it's a weird situation. It's weird that Cris Cyborg would either say that type of stuff, or if she would even do the research and find out, is this worth me pursuing? Is this worth me saying? She criticized Holly Holm about the number of times that she had been tested, and Holly Holm is among the most tested people in sports, period, but much less the UFC. Tested more than Cris Cyborg. And the thing is, if you looked suspect, USADA does advanced testing on you. They test extra. They do more. One thing I wonder about in the case of Holly Holm is, do these mind games affect her? Because they didn't with Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey screaming at her and all those things. Holly Holm always stays composed. But she ain't getting any younger. She's 36. Maybe that comes as you get older. She's been in the fight game for a long time. She's been boxing since like 2001, I think, is when she accepted her first fight. And here we are, almost 2018, she's going to be contending for another UFC title. She was asked about the drug test situation and kind of some of the mind games that Cris Cyborg played.
She's been talking a lot about you being tested. Do you look at this as gamesmanship, or do you think she's actually serious?
You know, it's one of those things that I don't know where that actually came from. You know, last year I was one of the most tested. They did a whole article, and I was one of the most tested last year. And this year, I believe I've still been tested more. I just never am the one that needs the sticker to put on my social media and let everybody know.
Tested today.
You know, it's like I got tested. It's the name of the game. It's never been something I've ever worried about because I've always been a clean athlete, no matter what I've ever competed in. I've never used a performance-enhancing drug in my life. So for me, it's like, oh, USADA's here. Okay, let's get this done with so I can either, number one, get back to bed because they're at 5:45 in the morning, or number two, let's get this done so I can go train if they come to the gym, you know. So they were just at my doorstep at 5:45 in the morning last week. So it's one of those things, you know, I've never really responded to a lot of trash talk or anything like that, or any attacks coming. It's the name of the game. That's what are we trying to do? I'm trying to beat you. I'm trying to knock you out. You're trying to knock me out. This is the name of the game. This is what we do. We're both trying to chase the common goal. Sorry about that. And in order to get there, we were trying to take each other out. So I don't ever say anything, but when it turned into that's the only time I've ever responded, because that's one thing I'm very sure of, and one thing I'm very confident in, and one thing that I'm very truthful about. I'm a clean athlete.
Yeah. Did you lose respect for her when she said that? Because it seemed kind of out of left field.
It was out of left field, and I feel like everything is. A lot of times when things like that happen, it's okay. Well, I just want to correct this real quick before people on the internet, because people even like see one thing on the internet and all of a sudden it's truth, right? Exactly, yeah. So that's why I just wanted to squash it when it first happened, but. On the other side of that, whenever people do things, every action is because of maybe a thought or a reaction or something that's going on with them, and you know, who knows why that came out from her side. You know, there might be emotions on her side of why that even is something that comes out. So I let that be their issue. I just want to, hey, this is it.
I know you posted the video with like kind of your response to it. It can't be found on your Instagram. It looks like it's deleted. Do you know why? Did you delete it? Did someone on your social team?
I put it up for one day. I don't really like my social media to be drama. There's a lot more to my life. I just like drama about a fight. So, you know what? As soon as that came out, I just thought, everybody's like, you gotta see this and you gotta see that. And I'm like, I'm not gonna see, you know, I said, honestly, I'm gonna make a response because I just want to just stop it from even like
starting
into an issue. It's not an issue. And that's all it needed. It just, one day is all it needed. It's done. So.
Is it disappointing knowing that now that's, you know, we're here, we're asking about it? You can be asking about things.
Right, and actually there's probably going to be, this is the first time I've actually done any media about it. There's probably going to be very few conversations about it because I actually don't even want my name to be associated with that subject.
Right. Let's talk about training camp then. Are you bringing anyone in specifically to kind of mimic her at all, or is it just going to be business as usual for training camp?
You know, we have such a great team. I have so many teammates that are going to mimic her, do whatever I need, and you know, they're going to be they're there. They're my family. They're like my brothers, and they show up and they do whatever we need. And so I don't need to fly anybody in. I've got them right there in the same room.
Making a prediction for this fight is a little more difficult than most high-level fights, in my opinion, because of the question marks surrounding Cris Cyborg and the quality of opponent she's faced. Also, the question marks around Holly Holm's ground game. We saw her choked out thoroughly by Miesha Tate, and I think if Miesha Tate is capable of that, then Cris Cyborg is more than capable of that. Footwork is going to be the key in this fight. I think if Cris Cyborg can stop Holly Holm from getting inside and outside and inside and outside, then she stands a much better chance than if she just tries to swing and slug it out. But despite the power of Cris Cyborg, she is a pretty cerebral fighter. She does look for openings very, very well. She is just exceptional at that type of thing and really capitalizing when somebody else opens up. you can't make a mistake against Cris Cyborg, or else she's going to make you pay for it. Now we're going to hear from the pros what they have to think, or what they have to say, rather, about the upcoming Holly Holm Cris Cyborg fight. We've got several of these pros picks. James does these after every interview, and really delivered on UFC 219. Take a listen.
And like Holly's like such a humble person, but I have like way more contact with Cris, again from like jiu-jitsu part, so I know she's such a humble girl too, and I'm pulling for Cris. I hope that I think she'll win, because she's so freaking tough, But I think will be a good fight for sure. Holly looks like she moves around, like from what I see. I'm not like specialist, of like stand up. I know for sure the fight's probably gonna stay standing up, so I'm really excited to see the fight. But I think Cris will will win.
I didn't see Holly Holmes win that fight. She's in a kind of weather storm early on in the fight. Cris Cyborg's going to push the pace and wear herself out, and I see Holly Holmes taking over the fight towards the end of the third round, going into the fourth, fifth rounds.
I like both of them. I like Holly Holmes, but I just think Cris Cyborg's going to take this. She's just a very dominant, strong woman, and you've seen Holly Holm already fight for the 45 against Radames, and then it wasn't like, she lost it, and it was like barely, wasn't that impressive of a fight. It was kind of close, and I feel like that's the type of fight that you have with Cris Cyborg. So for you to fight and lose it like that, I just don't think, But who knows? It's not the first time Holly Holm surprises us. So she might just pull it under out of nowhere, out of a hat trick and get another head kick KO. But I see Cyborg definitely dominating this.
Cyborg, I think. Yeah, I'm a big Holly Holm fan, but it's as if she goes into a bit of like an autopilot now. The days where she was like knocking people clean out, and. Like Cyborg, you don't have to worry about that. She'll always come with that venom in her shots, and she hits like a train. You can see it. And I was in the athlete retreat with her back in May, and she's a big featherweight. She's a cut of 140, but she's a big featherweight. And I see her stopping the fight. Really, she's an absolute beast.
I don't think anyone really beats Cris, but I think if Holly fights the way she fought Ronda and just keeps moving constantly, I think she has a good chance. I know, like it'll either be Cris winning by a TKO or Holly will win on points, but only if Holly sticks to that same like stick and move. Because as soon as Cris gets her hands on her, it's going to be a different story.
So I don't know. Everyone seems to say that Holly Holm has like the perfect style to beat Cyborg, like just because she's elusive, like, and she backs out, and Cyborg comes straight forward. So that seems to be like. On paper, it seems to like work for Cyborg, or I'm sorry, for Holm. But for Cyborg, I think one of the X factors is the ground game, because she's big and strong enough to just like, if she does run forward at Holly and can grab a hold of her, like she might be able to exploit some things on the ground because she's so big and so strong. And Holm isn't as big and strong at 45, I believe.
Cyborg is Cyborg, but Holly Holm is known for upsetting the favorite. Based on her history, I think it'll be a really, really good fight. But I don't know. I like Cyborg. I've trained with her a few times before. She's an absolute sweetheart and amazing person. I kind of want to see Holly win.
I think Cris Cyborg. I think she will pressure Holly and she will get the win. But it'll be a tough fight. But I think it'll be a decision win.
Oh, I think Cyborg's going to win that one, but I think it'll be a good match. I think Holm will give her some problems, but I think Cyborg's going to end up pulling out the win.
Nothing against Holmes, but I think Cris Cyborg's got that fight. So I can say definitely think Cris Cyborg.
Man, that's really tough, man, because I think Holly Holm can take the beating, and I think she'll have more stamina, and she moves a lot. But, man, I can't ever count out Cyborg.
Of course, if you are listening on the iTunes, Stitcher, Player FM, if you're listening to the audio of this, you may not have faces to go with those names. Head over to our YouTube. You can watch on there. You You can see all the video of that as well. Make sure you subscribe, like, thumbs up. This is such a supremely intriguing fight to me, but this whole card was matched up very, very well. The co-main event, Khabib Nurmagomedov against Edson Barboza. Now, there have been, like, just such an asterisk next to Khabib's name, I think, because of his inability to make weight or stay in the cage. Like, this is a guy who a few years ago, in 2014, he looked ready for a title shot. He missed 2 years. Then Tony Ferguson pulled out. He couldn't get the guy he wanted in the cage. Then he's taken another year off. He couldn't get in the cage. He couldn't make weight. There were all these issues. And in the 155-pound division, you have to prove that you can make weight. Now, granted, it would be a lot better off if they could just move to 165. That would make a lot more sense to me. I'm usually not in favor of flooding divisions and things like that. But with so much talent between 155 and 170, I think you could open up a 165, shift 170 to 175, and things would be all right. Edson Barboza is the matchup that I wanted to see against for Khabib Nurmagomedov. Easy for me to say, Khabib Nurmagomedov, because I saw Michael Johnson kind of piece Khabib up on the feet a little bit. We all know he has that just smothering wrestling that takes people down and holds them there, clamps down, and you just don't think back to Abel Trujillo and Gleison Tebow and all these guys who couldn't do anything with that wrestling. Edson Barboza is going to make you pay if you get in a range, either with his hands, with his feet, or with his knees. If you throw a lazy shot at Edson Barboza, you're going to probably get kneed and knocked out cold. If you strike at range too much, he might surprise you with a spinning wheel kick. If you try to fight in the pocket a little bit too much, straights, uppercuts, even elbows will get it done, and knees in the clinch too. That is such just a good matchup because it tests the wrestling of Edson Barboza, it tests the striking of Khabib Nurmagomedov. I just thought it was beautiful matchmaking by the new by Mick Maynard, Sean Shelby, the team that puts that together. Now, I think they've been doing a great job this year. They've really been stacking these UFC shows with, if not big name fights, then very interesting fights. And I think that Khabib versus Edson Barboza is a very interesting fight. A lot of people aren't giving Edson Barboza much of a chance, but I think that he has the tools that need to test Khabib Nurmagomedov. I really do. If Michael Johnson could find a degree of success on the feet against Khabib, then I definitely think that Edson Barboza could. So I'm not writing him off. Somebody asked me to give my percentage who I think could win. In Holly Holm Cyborg, I've got it 51-49 leaning towards Cyborg, but if Holly Holm won, it wouldn't surprise me at all. She has the technical tools to do it. Barboza and Khabib, I'm going a little bit more like 40% Barboza because of the tools that he has, but 60% Khabib because of just that wrestling hasn't failed him yet. That is just something that he has that will work against Conor McGregor. It could very well work against Tony Ferguson if he can get in range because we saw Kevin Lee have a degree of success. So Khabib's game now is enough to probably take him to a championship of some sort, whether it be the interim title or whatever. But, you know, it's you got to add to it, especially when Michael Johnson is piecing you up. And that's no disrespect to Michael Johnson because, as we've seen, he can beat almost anybody in that division on any given night. But take a listen at what the pros think about this upcoming fight.
It just depends if Barboza can stop the shots. You know, I think he can keep him at distance and maybe win in the open. But if Khabib gets his hands on him, I believe he'll put him down and ride him out or submit him.
Man, I don't know. Is Khabib going to make weight? If Khabib makes weight, if Barboza can't stop that takedown, that's it. You know what I mean? I think it's Khabib. You know what I mean? If Barboza can keep it standing the whole time, Barboza's going to win.
It's hard to not pick Khabib on that fight, but I fought Edson, and he's a different fighter than he was 2 years ago. And also he's been making the weight consistently. So depending on how that weight cut goes, I think that would say a lot about how that fight goes.
Khabib champ, Khabib all the way, dude. Khabib's gonna beat him. I think pretty easily. Khabib should be fighting for that title. I figured that he would get the title shot. I don't think McGregor was gonna be coming back, but we'll see.
Nurmagomedov, like he's 24-0, 8-0 in the UFC. It's unheard of, and it's hard to keep that over. I think Barboza's got to catch him coming in. If he doesn't catch him coming in, then the same thing happens that happened to everyone else. Nurmagomedov takes him down, beats him up until they give something up, or he wins by decision. So I think Khabib will get that.
I'm gonna take Barboza, but hopefully whatever his name can make weight.
Oh man, I love these guys, dude. I'm a Khabib fan, man. I'm a Khabib fan. I have Khabib winning. I have Khabib winning that fight. I think it's gonna be a tough one. It's gonna be a back and forth one, but I have Khabib winning that fight.
That's a tough one. I think Khabib's going to get him down, though. I think once Khabib gets him down, it's just too hard for a lot of guys to deal with the wrist control and the hip pressure.
Khabib wins that for sure. Not for sure. Fuck, you just don't know anything. But I think Khabib will just close the distance and take him down, and it'll be over. So it's hard to bet against Khabib.
Yeah, that's a good fight. I don't think anyone's been able to hold Edson down. Khabib, yeah, there's not too much to watch from him. You know, the guy doesn't fight so often, so we'll really get to see. I just hope he comes in and makes the weight that he's. I seen him out of camp once, man, and that's a big dude. He would have like, I don't know, pounds, but he would have been like 95 kilo, like a light heavyweight size. And he was like wrestling Luke Rockhold and just like out muscling him, just holding him down. So that's a big guy. That's one of the guys that I don't know how he makes lightweight, man. It would just be a training camp would just be a weight loss clinic, I guess. So that's probably why he doesn't fight so often. But I'm picking Barboza, just too slick, too fast, too agile, too active over the last few years. The guy's been improving and fighting, so I'm gonna go with Edson.
Yeah, I think Khabib will win that. I think if Barboza can land something straight off the bat in the feet, Barboza might get it. But that's a he's been hit before and he still does the same thing, Khabib. So I'll go Khabib, three round decision or maybe even a submission stoppage.
I like Edson. Edson was one of my. I liked his stand-up probably the most in the whole UFC when I was really coming into this thing. His leg kicks are brutal, but Nurmagomedov, his wrestling and his grappling is too much for someone that doesn't have a wrestling or a grappling background.
Dude, if Khabib can make it out without getting injured, that 155-pound cut is pretty tough for him, from what I've been hearing. So if he can make it down there, I mean, that dude, you can't put your money against him. That guy's trying to go in there. But Barboza is very, he's very, very diverse with the striking and skill set. So if he can keep it standing, then I think Barboza can end up finishing Khabib. But if Khabib gets a hold of him and able to take it to the ground, you're not getting up. He's held down fucking phenomenal fighters. So I say, like I said, if it stands up, what's his face? If it's a stand-up, then Barboza would take it. If Khabib is able to take it to the ground, then it's him all day. If Khabib gets him to the ground, it's going to be bad. And I think Edson's gotten way better at that. But I mean, Khabib's going to get a hold of him, and I think Khabib's going to beat him up on the ground for sure.
If it stays standing, it's Edson, but Khabib's going to take him down for sure, I think. So I got Khabib submission or just brutal, just ground and pound. Khabib.
All right, Barboza. I'm going to go with Barboza for that one, Buff.
I don't know. Barboza's been hot lately, man. I don't know. But Khabib, I don't know. That one's kind of a pick 'em to me. I think whoever starts faster and can get the other one's attention should win. If Barboza does win, I think it'll be by decision. I think he'll have to come out, rack up points early and quickly, and then avoid the takedown later. Because I don't think Khabib will break. You know what I mean? Khabib, and I think he's going to be kind of hard to put away. I think that if Barboza does beat him, he's going to have to hit him fast early. You know what I'm saying? And kind of stifle him a little bit, and then try to run the points.
It just doesn't get any easier to pick from there because you have a Carlos Condit versus Neil Magny on the show as well. My God, Carlos Condit, a guy who has appeared at the top of this division for on and off for so long. He had that title shot in 2016 that went to a split decision. He had the Nick Diaz fight where he won the interim championship. He lost to GSP. He lost to Johnny Hendricks. He's won one fight in the last 4 years, though. That's the big question mark, in my opinion. And when they're, again, beautiful matchmaking, because they're putting him up against Neil Magny. Neil Magny, who is the gatekeeper in this division. You see who can hang and who isn't going to hang in this 170-pound division. He's beaten guys like Tim Means, Kelvin Gastelum, Hector Lombard, Eric Silva, Johnny Hendricks. Guys who haven't made it to that part and that point in the division, and then he would lose to guys like Dos Anjos, who are close to a title shot. Maia, who would get a title shot. Then you got Lorenz Larkin, who went on to Bellator on a big deal. The wrestling of Magny and the range of Magny is something that I wonder about, but I don't know how effectively Magny will use his reach against a guy like Carlos Condit and his footwork. That being said, it's been a year and a half since I've seen Carlos Condit in action, and really it's been closer to 2 years, because that 2-minute drubbing from Damian Maia, what did that show us? That didn't show us anything. Just showed us that his ground game wasn't as good as Damian Maia's, and we pretty much, that was a foregone conclusion, yeah? Like, we all knew that Carlos Condit's ground game was not as good as Damian Maia's. Neil Magny is the right opponent to give Carlos Condit for a multitude of reasons. If Condit wins, then, okay, he belongs near the top of this division. If Magny wins, then that's another name to add to his resume. To be fair, some of the people that he's beaten, Johnny Hendricks, past his prime, Hector Lombard, past his prime, Kelvin Gastelum, not ideally at the weight that Kelvin Gastelum can perform his best at, I think, but still, that was an outstanding fight. That was great. You got guys like Tim Means that he's beaten, that can hang with almost anybody. Like, they make it their fight, and Neil Magny was able to make it his fight. So I'm going with Magny here just because I haven't seen Carlos Condit perform at a successful level for so long. But I mean, that's why you put him in this fight, is to see if he can compete at this level. Several UFC fighters, including Colby Covington, chimed in on who they think will win this fight.
I got to go Condit, man. Magny is, man, that guy's just, he needs to hang it up too, man. He's past his time, and Condit's vicious, man. So I think he's going to get the job done.
Condit. I think Condit. I think Condit experience, obviously fighting in big fights as well. I think it'll make a big difference in that fight.
Got Carlos Condit. Carlos Condit had some time to actually go back and give his body time to heal up. His last fight was just a ridiculous war with Robbie Lawler. I know that. But sometimes you need those breaks to rebuild that flame, to rebuild that fire. And I think he's got it. Neil Magny, I love the guy to death, but he hasn't been doing too well. I'm not really sure why that is. I don't know if it's a mental thing, but he hasn't been doing too well in the 170 division. I hope he gets that fire back again. I hope he's not losing that fire. And a lot of guys do that, especially when you're really busy like he is. But I think Carlos Condit's got it.
I feel like traditional wisdom says Condit, but after such a long layoff, I don't know, ring rust could be a factor, but I'm going to go with my boy Condit. I think, a little bit more versatile. Like, they're around the same frame, so I don't see Magny's range being as much of an issue. I think it's going to be like, and I think Condit has a bit more weaponry, but I don't know. We'll see if ring rust is a factor.
That's a fun one, too. God, dude. I would love for the Natural Born Killer to come back and kill it. That's a clean matchup. I don't really know who's going to win that one because they're both really freaking good. The funny thing is, like, I'm trying to like, Neil Magny is an excellent fighter, man. He's really good at using his range. He's very long. He's actually, I think he's pretty strong. Like, he looks pretty strong for his division. But every time I think of Neil, I think of Lorenz Larkin keeping that guy all over the place, man. But I'm gonna go with Carlos Condit. That's a tough one though.
I don't know. It depends on how Condit comes out. I think Condit can pull it out for sure, but depends on how prepared he is for this fight. And I see Condit, but Magny is super predictable. They're not predictable. Super durable. So I mean, if it doesn't if it finds his rhythm and you kind of fight at his pace, it's trouble. But if you find him out and then kind of start strong and he start to feel you feel you, then you can have the better. But I think Condit.
I'll go with Carlos Condit. I think he's just too busy and fought too tough of guys. I just don't see Neil Magny being big enough or strong enough to really pose any threat to him.
Carlos is very crafty. The way he fights, that guy, like, he's very calm sometimes, but he fights very good, and he's very good on the ground too. And the only thing I can see Magny trying to do to him more will be throw a lot of jabs or try to take him down. But Robbie is just all over the place. Carlos. So yeah, I see Carlos either stopping him because Carlos is very good.
Neil Magny, man. I don't know if Condit says he loves fighting and stuff, but just because of the fact that he was thinking of retiring, it's when you have one foot out, it's hard to fight. It's not easy to be the same. If like Condit in his prime, I'd like Condit, but now I think Magny's on his way up.
So as we went on the air, I got some unfortunate news that John Lineker is out of his fight with Jimmie Rivera. Undisclosed reasons. This is heartbreaking. I actually had a video interview with Jimmie Rivera queued up. I may still run that because he talks about, actually I won't run it, but he talks about having his opponents pull out and things like that. Marlon Moraes has stepped up and said that he would fight Jimmie Rivera. And also Brian Kelleher said that he would do it at 140 pounds. That is a bummer. You had John Lineker against Jimmie Rivera and a win for Rivera while he is still so under the radar. Would have probably given him a title shot, and he really deserves it. Like, he beat Almeida and Faber and Alcantara and Munoz, and he's on such a hot streak that a win over Lineker would have been an even bigger, higher profile win than, or more of one to tack onto that resume. It's really unfortunate. Now, John Lineker's power doesn't seem to have translated necessarily to 135. Marlon Moraes versus Jimmie Rivera is a great fight. Do I think that Jimmie Rivera takes it based on the interview that James Lynch had with him that you can check out over at Fightful.com? No, because I don't think that Jimmie Rivera is keen on switching game plans. Like, it's just like, you got to train a certain way for John Lineker, and that way is not the way that you train for Marlon Moraes. Do I think he would entertain the idea? Yeah, probably, because he's not getting paid otherwise, and he delayed his honeymoon in order to go and take this fight. That is so unfortunate. Hopefully we have a Jimmie Rivera versus Marlon Moraes fight this weekend. Do I think it'll happen at 135? Hell no, I don't. Marlon Moraes, I don't think there's any way he can make 135 in this short of notice, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he didn't get out of shape. Maybe he planned for this. Anytime John Lineker's fighting, you got to kind of prepare yourself no matter what weight he's fighting. He could fight at 145, and I would tell featherweights, get ready. You might have to step in for him. So that's very unfortunate, and we do have pros pick clips up on our YouTube for Rivera and Lineker, and we do have an interview with Jimmie Rivera up there. So instead of running it on this preview now that it's kind of pointless, we won't do that. Now, if Moraes versus Rivera happens, you got to watch out for the kicks of Marlon Moraes. He is such just a violent kicker that it can throw somebody who is so well-rounded as Jimmie Rivera off their game and make them almost a one-dimensional fighter. He's got that ability. So that's something to watch out for, too. And many believe that Marlon Moraes could be the best bantamweight in the world, period. Because he sure as hell didn't lose his first fight in the UFC, despite what the judges said. Like, that should not be a stain on his record. Jimmie Rivera, however, he's not lost in about 9 years as well. Like, that is just one of those fights that, like, even though it's not a title fight, would be such a high-level, great fight. Like, everybody should want to see that fight. That's just such a good one. Also, great matchmaking. Cynthia Calvillo against Carla Esparza. Calvillo, I've touted this many times, has been a pro less than 2 years. Her first fight came 2 months into Fightful existing as a website. That's unbelievable. Unbelievable. And she's 6-0. She beat Joanne Calderwood. That was the big one for me. When she beat Joanne Calderwood, now Calderwood missed weight, so you got to wonder if anything else was wrong with her there. She has since moved up to 125. But Calvillo defeating a person in Joanne Calderwood that many thought would rule over that division, that's saying something. Also, she has a big win over Aspen Ladd as an amateur. Now, despite the fact that she's only been a pro for under a year and a half, she has competed in MMA and trained in MMA for like 6-7 years. It's been a while. Like, she didn't just like up and decide to start fighting a couple of years ago. She had amateur fights in 2012. She had like 4 of them. She had one in 2013, one in 2014, and then took some time off. Carla Esparza is what she is. Carla Esparza is a finished product now. And the thing is, the irony is they are near the same age. I think that Calvillo is actually a little bit older than Esparza. But you wouldn't think that because Esparza has been in the game so long. She has been like just visible to hardcore MMA fans since 2010, since she lost to Megumi Fuji in Bellator to that armbar. And then she fought Jessica Aguilar a couple fights after that. She was fighting the best women, not just the best women in the world at this division, but at the time, the best women in this division ever. Jessica Aguilar and Megumi Fuji. And later she would face Joanna Jędrzejczyk. So by the time she got to 10-3, her 3 losses were to the 3 greatest fighters that women's strawweight ever saw. She's got a nice win over Rose Namajunas. She's beaten Tisha Torres, who's challenging for the title next. Beat Jessica Panay, who competed for the title. Angela Hill, who held the Invicta title. Juliana Lima, who looked like she was going to be something cool or something special then. Felice Herrig, who has only improved since then, but she didn't compete that frequently. And, you know, if you get your ass kicked by Joanna Jędrzejczyk the way that she did, you're going to want to take a year plus off. So that's understandable. Since then, 2017, she's fought a lot more. She lost to Randa Marcos. If she wins this fight over Calvillo, that puts her back in the conversation, especially with a win over Rose Namajunas and a win over Tisha Torres on The Ultimate Fighter. So Carla Esparza is in a situation where if she wins, she's in the discussion again, depending on what Joanna does moving forward. Because to have been out of that conversation just a couple of months ago, that's a pretty good situation for Carla. Because she's got wins over both the girls that are going to compete for the title. Well, we spoke to Cynthia Calvillo, who mentioned that Carla, was kind of offended that she even challenged her or took this fight.
Tell me about how you found out that you were fighting Carla Esparza, former champ. I mean, this is a pretty big fight for you.
Yeah, I was pretty stoked. I think Carla actually is the one that kind of helped out with that, just because she responded to. They had asked me after my Scotland fight who I wanted to fight next, and of course, being at that time that Carla and Michelle Waterson were both ranked right above me, I was like, well, of course, I want to fight either of you two so I can get up. So Carla took it as a kind of disrespect sign for whatever reason and was like, I'll fight you. So then, it's kind of one of those things where the timing worked for us to fight. She accepted the fight. So I was happy when I got it.
Excellent. And how do you feel like you match up against her? I mean, obviously her bread and butter is wrestling. How do you feel like your skill set sort of matches up against hers?
Yeah, she's got really strong wrestling. She's a veteran in the division, so she's fought all kinds of different types of fighters, and she's adapted well and used her wrestling. But I think I'm one of the new era fighters where I'm well-rounded. I can stop takedowns, I can throw takedowns, and it just depends. I'm really good at adapting at different styles, so I'm really excited about this fight. It's a new, different type of style. I fought a wrestler before, but she was a lot taller than me. So now we have, Carla Esparza. She's a little bit lower than, shorter than me, and got some good shots in there. So I'm really excited about this fight.
How's training camp going at Team Alpha Male, and who are some of the people you've been working with helping you get ready for this fight?
It's been going great. It's amazing. I saw my head coach Justin Buckles and my other corner Fabio Prado, and a lot of the great guys in there. One of my main training partners actually Jamie Moyle.
Oh, great!
She's in one of the UFC strawweight fighter as well. She's going to be fighting Marina Moros for UFC 220. So it just works in perfectly. We're both in training camp. She's short. She's the same size as Carla. I'm taller. I can give her a good look from her. So it's a good look. So I'm really happy about that and having her for this training camp.
December 30th, how do you sort of see this fight unfolding? I mean, you're going to win, but how do you see it ending with you and Carla?
I think, oh man, I think someone's gonna get cut up. It's gonna be a little bloody. I always like cutting up my opponents, so it always makes me feel good. Like it's just like a shark, Like if I see him bleed, I just want to, keep going. But honestly, I feel like it's gonna be a great fight. I think she's gonna underestimate my power with my punches, and she's probably just gonna try to, shoot, which I'm perfectly fine with that because my bread and butter is the ground, and I'll welcome her. If she wants to take me down, I'm either gonna finish her in the bottom with ground and pound, or I'm gonna knock her out.
How close do you think you are to a title shot, especially if you get a win here? I mean, you'd beat a former champion. I mean, I gotta imagine you're pretty close.
I'm so close. I feel like I'm so close. They just, the New Year rankings just came out. I'm number 6. So, unfortunately for Carla Esparza, for whatever reason, they moved her down all the way to number 9. So, I don't know. I can't say much about that. All I know is that when I took the fight, she was number 7 and I was number 8. And now as the months progress, I'm number 6 and she's number 9. I mean, I'm sure that if I win, I'm still going to go up, but I'm hoping to just crack the top 5. Get one more of the top 5 fighters, and then I should have my shot, I think, But, who knows? It's just with Rose being the new champ and new matchups, and you don't know how it's going to get mixed up. I feel like if Rose would have not won, I would have been a clear shot for me to be there because everybody else in the top 5 already fought Joanna. So I just felt like it was just, you could kind of see it more. Now it's a little bit of a mix-up. So we'll see what happens, but I really do feel like maybe, just this next one more, and maybe, I can get it. I'm hoping for summertime. I would definitely love to fight for that International Fight Week for UFC. It's always huge in the summertime.
We're going to give the prelims some love as well because there are some good fights on these prelims. One of them might actually get moved up to the main card, which is a bummer. I hope they find a replacement for John Lineker, and I hope the Jimmie Rivera accepts it because after this, he deserves to just be put into a title shot no matter who he faces. These prelims, some good fighters on these prelims, like none that are going to pop out and you say, man, that should be on the main card, nothing like that, but they were able to get some people on the show who needed fights and things like that. Marc Diakiese is one that I am particularly interested in because he's such an exciting fighter, and he did drop his last fight. He lost it to Drakkar Klose, who we actually spoke to on Fightful.com recently, but Diakiese's fighting Dan Hooker, and Dan Hooker always comes to fight. He had that sick knee over Ross Pearson. He just drilled and killed Hatsu Hioki. But Diakiese is a guy that a lot of people thought was going to be like come into the UFC just like a bat out of hell and dominate a lot of people. James Lynch spoke to him ahead of the fight.
This is a huge card here, UFC 219. It's got, Holly Holm, Cris Cyborg. I mean, it's the end of the year card. They always stack the deck, so you must have been excited about fighting in Vegas and fighting on this card. And you're taking on Dan Hooker, a really tough guy. He's got the 14-7 record. How do you feel like you match up against him in this fight?
That's the main reason I wanted it, because I know he's a tough guy, because I felt like my last fight, don't get me wrong, I don't feel like I've lost any fans or anything, or I know people talking, but I just feel like I know what I'm capable of and doing. So that's why I wanted somebody tough like Dan Hooker, because he got a good knockout over Ross Pearson. So I wanted somebody like that, to go back in my winning ways.
Yeah, and it's safe to say this is the type of fight that excites you because, Dan is, going to bring the action. You're going to have – it's impossible to have a boring fight just the way this is on paper between the two of you.
Yeah. No, I know he's dangerous to come forward, punches, stand up with me. So, yeah, I'm going to be out there, face to face, and then, put it on him.
How do you see this fight sort of unfolding on December 30th?
I want to knock him out.
Yeah.
That's the plan. I don't have any other plans, but I know what I've got to do. That is knock him out, and that's what I'm going to do.
I know you're not looking past Dan here, but do you have sort of an idea of when you want to fight after this and any opponents you have in mind or anything like that?
It's going to be London. It's going to be London.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've got an opponent in mind, but I'm not going to say yet. I'm going to get Dan out of weight, and then I'm going to get the mic and call him out, because I still feel like Drakkar shouldn't have beat me, and I know I'm capable of. I watched his last fight; he did terrible. He didn't have a clue, and I felt you got lucky with me. So it's like I know what I've got to do now.
In addition to Diakiese, you got Miles Jury, Rick Glenn. Miles Jury looked like a guy in 2014. At the end of 2014, he was fresh off of wins over Michael Johnson, Ramsey Nijem, Diego Sanchez, Takanori Gomi. In 2014, that was looking at something. And then he lost that fight to Donald Cerrone. Then he didn't come back for about 11 months. He lost to Charles Oliveira. Oliveira missed weight. I don't know if you can really hold that against him, but it was such a one-sided fight that you kind of have to. And then all of a sudden, like, he comes back a year and a half later and he beats Mike De La Torre, and he did it quickly. So you have to wonder, like, during that period, that like 2.5-year period in between wins, what changed in Miles Jury? Is he that guy that beat Michael Johnson, Diego Sanchez, Takanori Gomi, Ramsey Nijem? Because the thing is, you can beat those 4 guys, but it ain't often that you beat those 4 guys in a row if you put any lightweight or featherweight up against them. And he has done some bouncing around because he moved to featherweight for the Oliveira fight. Rick Glenn, he is a guy that you know what you're getting out of Rick Glenn. He's a former World Series of Fighting champion. He's a good win. Miles Jury, I would have, I say maybe I would have put him up against somebody else, but Rick Glenn versus Miles Jury is a good fight. It's a good fight. It's one that could end up either being really boring or could end up being fight of the night. That's the key there. Also, a storyline in this fight: Luis Smolka against Matheus Nicolau. Nicolau is knocking on the door of being a guy that gets bigger fights in this flyweight division. Luis Smolka was. Like, when we started this website in July of 2016, he had just beaten Ben Nguyen. He was on a 4-fight winning streak. The only guy that had beaten him in his career was Chris Carriazo via split decision. And then he had that upset loss to Brandon Moreno. And then he got beat by Ray Borg. And then he got beat by Tim Elliott. Now, Borg, Moreno, Elliott, Carriazo are all either top 10 guys or guys who have competed for titles in that division. So that's the type of guys you'll run into. But if he doesn't beat Nicolau, then I think he's out of the UFC. Now, he has said that he has completely changed his life. Said that he had some alcohol problems and really opened up to James Lynch about it.
You're coming off a loss. Tim Elliott, UFC on Fox 24. What did you sort of take away from that fight? Tim's a really tough guy and has a pretty unorthodox style for that division.
Kind of proved to me, like, I don't know, like, I need to stop drinking. I mean, I've been kind of an alcoholic for, like, the past, like, I don't know, for, like, a while. I mean, so I kind of proved to me, like, I can't get away with drinking and training anymore. I can't drink during fight camp anymore. I got away with it for a really long time, and I guess it's just caught up to me.
Wow, good for you, man. Was that sort of your decision, or did someone sort of come to you and say, hey, you might want to cut that out? How did you sort of come to that realization?
My coaches have kind of been on me about it for a while, so is she. I mean, they've been on me for a while, but I've just been real stubborn about it. I like to drink, I like to have fun, and I just kind of hit the wall. I'm not a kid anymore. I'm like old, so I can't get that. My metabolism's not what it used to be.
Yeah, well, you're not that old, man, but still, I know what you're saying. You get older, you get mature, you got to kind of, put your priorities in order. So are you completely done with drinking, or is it just during training camp you don't have any drinks?
I'm just cutting it down, like, a lot. Like, I was like blacking out every night. Like, I was a pretty heavy drinker, but, I'm trying to clean it up right now.
Good for you, man. Well, I'm glad you've realized that. I mean, you must feel a lot better, going into practice, going into training, not having a hangover, not having to, being dehydrated. Have you noticed that as a big difference in this training camp?
Yeah, I definitely have, like, a lot better energy and cardio. Like, I'm not, like, sparring and trying to fight my, like, throw up. You know what I mean? Trying to choke my throw up. So, yeah, that's a nice change.
Awesome. Well, you got another tough opponent here. You're taking on Matheus Nicolau. He's got the 12-1-1 record. How do you feel like you match up against him in this fight?
I feel pretty good. I kind of call them, like, Taijutsu fighters. Like, they're like Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu, kind of like wrestle boxing. I don't know. I feel pretty confident. I feel like we can get the win. I know he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu too. I mean, that's pretty interesting. It's kind of a thing for me because this is gonna be my first black belt that I'm going up against. So this is gonna be kind of interesting test.
Yeah. No, that's so we caught you here while you're eating some breakfast. How is the weight cut going? I mean, we got lots of time before this fight, but I imagine everything's on point.
Yeah, I'm a lot lighter than before. Like I said, taking up the drinking is really helping a lot, getting me a lot lighter a lot earlier. So that's really nice. Yeah, man, and I'm actually getting to eat more now that I'm not drinking, because before I used to kind of like skip meals and stuff so I could drink, you know. But yeah, like so now I kind of like I get white rice and stuff, so that's pretty cool.
Excellent. Now, were you drinking beer or hard liquor or both? Like, because I know with beer, it really fills you up, you know, when you're trying to, do that along with training.
Yeah, I'm like I drink like a high schooler, bro. I'll drink mouthwash if that's all that's left in the house. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
This is a must-win for Luis Smolka, in my opinion. Nicolau coming off of like a year-plus layoff, so if he loses, I don't think a lot of people will bat an eye, but if Smolka loses, that's 4 in a row. That can be trouble. Khalil Roundtree is on the show. He looks like he's really found his footing. He has landed a couple of early knockouts, and that comes after his first 2 losses in the UFC, and he lost in the Ultimate Fighter too, and he came in as a very highly touted prospect, very young in his career, because it was 2014, 2015 when he was racking up all those wins in RFA, and then he got put in the Ultimate Fighter last year, and he was still like 25, 26 years old, still finding his way. But after wins over Paul Craig and Daniel Jolly, those are also that is also a guy I have my eye on in this always changing landscape at light heavyweight, which I should have an article up soon. I did it a long time ago about some of the prospects at light heavyweight, but haven't released it, waiting for the right time. We have Marc De La Rosa against Tim Elliott, and this is at bantamweight. Tim Elliott had a fight canceled recently, and the UFC just decided to get him on a card as soon as they could. I respect that. He was supposed to fight Justin Scoggins on December 16th. That didn't end up happening. So they called up Marc De La Rosa, the husband of the girl who was on Ultimate Fighter recently, De La Rosa. Shit, I can't remember her name. Drawing a blank here. We spoke to Marc about how having his wife in the UFC was beneficial to him. He knew what he had to go through. Also, how he found out about the news.
Congratulations on the UFC contract. How long was this in the works? Because I just saw last week you got your release from Combate Americas. How did this sort of all come together?
I got released from Combate. I tried out for the Ultimate Fighter, the 45ers. Went out there, impressed a lot of guys out there. I got in front of Sean Shelby, got in front of McMahon. I mean, I told him, I was like, what do I got to do to get on the big show? I go, if I have to go through these 45ers, I'll do that. I'll go through it. I made all the final cuts out there and stuff. I mean, they still haven't gave the for sure who's on the show yet, but I stayed all week, made most of the cuts, and here I am now. I guess I ended up having a talk with them, and I was like, anytime, any place, you need a 35er. You got to give me time for 25, but you need time, any place, anytime. If you need a 35er, I'm your guy.
Excellent. And just to clarify for everyone, this fight is at bantamweight at 135 pounds, correct?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, well that's good. That's good to know. So, how much did it help with Montana having her fight at the beginning of the month and helping her get ready for that? Because you I'm sure you were prepping for that, and now you got this fight. Even though it's a month later, it's still you were in the gym leading up to that.
It helped out a lot just seeing like the process and stuff. Because right now they're hitting me with USADA and all this paperwork and Reebok and all this stuff that she had to go through. So it's still kind of a little overwhelming, like, oh, it's a lot of paperwork and stuff. But I went through the whole process with her, and we're doing the whole process. I have to do the whole process now, so it's kind of been there, done that now. So it's good.
Cool. Now, as far as Tim Elliott as an opponent, he's got a very awkward style. We've seen this. How do you feel like you match up against him in this fight?
He won the Ultimate Fighter. He's a former title challenger. Again, it's a nice, good, hard, tough fight, and that's what I want. I want to be on the big stage. I want to take the big fights. I mean, you could offer me TJ Dillashaw. I'll accept anybody. And I was ready to go. I think I match up really well against him. He's awkward. Again, though, it's kind of like a Dominic Cruz, you could say. But I mean, again, I'm ready to showcase my skills. And like I say, I mean, you got to put the guys in front of me, and you put them in front of me, and we'll see how he fights and how he performs.
Of course, her name is Montana. I thought it was, and I was like, was that her name? Was that her name? Of course, she changed it from Stewart to De La Rosa in between The Ultimate Fighter and her debut. Her successful debut, by the way. We have a couple of interviews up with her as well. Last but not least, we have Marvin Vettori versus Omari Akhmedov. Akhmedov has won 2 in a row. He beat Noak and Al Hassan back-to-back. Vettori has won 2 of 3. James Lynch spoke with him ahead of this big fight for him.
I wasn't that happy with the fact that the UFC didn't give me the chance to speak after, but
Oh yeah, in that fight, yeah. Why was that? I guess they were just running late on time.
I think so. Yeah. I think so. I had no media after, man. I was kind of, but I had no media.
I should have got you back on here. We should have done something post fight. We could have talked about what's next and all that. But we'll next time they don't give you the mic, you call me and you can come back on here.
Yeah.
So
all right, great.
That sounds good. I mentioned that the fight was in June, and here we are in December. Did you want this much time off, or were you trying to get a fight in between there?
No, I mean, it was. I mean, I wanted to fight before, but at the same time, it was good because I had some little injuries with me, so I took my time to heal, and now I'm here ready to go for the next one. But I mean, hopefully in the next year I'll try to fight 3 times if it's possible. That's my goal. But yeah, I mean 2 or 3. But yeah, no, I tried to fight before though. But and in a way, it's always good. I took my time, train, improve, and yeah.
Good stuff. You're taking on Omari Akhmedov. He's got the 17-4 record. How do you feel like you match up against him?
Well, good. Just I think he'll have a bad night because it's like his only thing is wrestling, and it's kind of a scrappy guy and standing, and I don't think it's even close to be enough for me. And I just think that and he kind of like he get pressure very easy, and he kind of gasses by the end of second, third round. So I mean, think it's a very good matchup for me, and he's giving up some size as well, and because he's coming out for welterweight. So I mean, yeah, no, I feel good. I've been preparing like on takedown defense, obviously like focusing on my game, making my game even stronger. I won't change anything than normal. If I have the chance, I will take him down too, and just keep a heavy top position and tire it as much as I can or finish him. I really want to finish this fight by, can be the first, can be the second, but I want to finish this fight, and I really think that I will be able to. So, no, it's good. I'm very ready and focused, and I'll be very prepared for the 30th of December. I gotta make that memory right because last year this same card didn't go my way, so I gotta make this memory right.
Yeah.
Remember, guys, we have live coverage of this show Saturday night. Whether you can't watch it or you want to watch along with us, you can chime in the comments section. We are there to talk to you, to make predictions. Head over to our forums at Fightful.com. They're absolutely free. If you want Joe's take, you can check out last week's edition of the Holy Smokes MMA podcast, where we kind of break down this event and Ryzen, which he will be calling with friend of Fightful, Frank Trigg. We have a post-show podcast after UFC 219. With James Lynch. He'll be joining me, and as you've seen plenty of his work right now on the author field on Fightful.com. I listed this as myself and James Lynch since I'm using so much of the content that he gave us. Thank you for you guys who watched this and enjoyed it. It is a bit of a project because it required a lot of editing. This was just an event in particular we had so much content on that I thought some of it got lost in the shuffle. But over at YouTube, we're uploading new interviews all the time. At Fightful.com, we have exclusives across MMA, pro wrestling, boxing, nonstop. We are really a source in the pro wrestling, MMA, and boxing world, and I want to thank you guys for supporting us and allowing us to be such a thing. We have a great team, and many of them did some work for us throughout the week to get us ready for Christmas because your news kind of slows down during the Christmas week and the Christmas weekend, but not over at Fightful.com. We have a full slate of content for you. On the wrestling side of things, we have a bunch of Royal Rumble content coming up. Very excited for that. Make sure you guys join us. Leave a thumbs up, subscribe, like. Let people know about Fightful.com. We have everything you could ask for in a wrestling, MMA, or boxing website, from interviews around the world, podcasts, photos, videos, forums. We have tons of original content. We have anything that you'll see at another wrestling website, we've got at Fightful.com. Same goes for MMA. Same goes for boxing. We have it all there, and I want to thank you guys so much for joining us. Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year, everything you got, my friend. Festivus, Friendsmas, anything. Until next time, guys, we are out.